This is John Abrams, and this is The Variety Artist, episode 41. Well, every episode, I ask our guest to reveal something personal about him or herself. And I was thinking, that's not really fair, because I haven't really revealed anything personal about me. So here's what I thought I'd do. Every week during this opening portion of my podcast / interview thingy, I'm going to reveal a personal story about myself, tell you a little bit more about what's going on. So here we go. First one. I have a dog. His name is Bitterman Jones. He's a rescue, part Vizsla. It's V-I-Z-L-A. You can look it up on the internet if you don't know what a Vizsla is, and part something else. He's very handsome. So about a year and a half ago, he was diagnosed with diabetes. Now, I didn't even know that dogs could get diabetes. The doctor or the vet told us that in about a year, he would be blind, that he would lose his sight. So time starts to go by, and he's slowly developing cataracts in his eyes. I'm looking closely. I actually call them doggeracts because they're on a dog. So I'm looking closely, slowly developing them. And every Saturday, I'd take him out for a hike. And I'd take him off leash, and he'd run around like a maniac. Well, one day when we were hiking, he was running around like crazy. And you know those big, giant gutters? They're maybe, 2.5 feet deep. They're for rain runoff. Well, he's running around like crazy, and he runs right into one of those gutters. And he falls right in. And I was like, hey, buddy, come on back up. And he's wagging his tail, and he's happy as can be, and he runs around some more. And I was thinking to myself, well, maybe he's starting to lose his sight. So maybe 10 minutes later, he's running around like crazy again, and he runs and falls back into one of those gutters. So I pick him up, and I look closely, and sure enough, his eyes are covered totally with doggeracks. So I knew right then and there that he was blind, and I was crying like a baby. I was like, hey, buddy, you're going to be okay, blah. And he's wagging his tail. He's happy as can be, and I was the sad one. He was fine. So news is that he's happy as can be right now. In fact, he's sitting right behind me as I'm recording this. He's healthy as can be. I give him 2 shots a day of insulin, 1 after every meal. But he's healthy as heck, just blind as can be. All right, enough about me and my dog. Let's talk about today's interview. Today, we have one of the top jugglers in the world. You're going to learn about how he does backroom sales, how he's put his mechanical engineering degree to use in juggling, and possibly the most innovative opening of any act I've ever seen. Let's go.
Welcome to The Variety Artist, providing aspiring artists and entertainers with in-depth discussions from top performers from all over the world. So get ready to book some gigs, make some money, and have some fun with your host, John Abrams.
He's a regular at the world-famous Comedy Barn Theater in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. He's a 7-time Guinness World Record holder, 3-time Variety Act of the Year, and a 3-time gold medalist in the Netherlands National Juggling Championships. Variety artist, I give you juggling phenom Niels Duinker.
Hello, everyone.
How's it going, Niels?
It's going great. It's a beautiful morning here in Tennessee, and already got some work done. I'm now doing this podcast interview.
Now, there's some controversy on the pronunciation of your name. So say your name for us.
My name is Niels Duinker.
Okay, so that's how I pronounce it.
Yeah, you did good on that one. Like, there's a couple sounds in there that's not so common in the English language. It's always confusing. You spell it N-I-E-L-S. Yep. And then, a lot of people say Niels, but it's, Niels. That's what my mom told me, so I think that's correct. And then Duinker with the U and the I. Yeah, you don't really have that sound here in the US. I think it makes it more memorable. I didn't change it because also people see immediately that it's a little bit different.
And the logo is great. The ND with the juggling balls on top of it.
Yeah.
Who did that for you?
It's actually funny. When I was like 14 or 15, I had one time I played around with the logo, and then I put the N and the D together. but then I never really used it. And then I started working the cruise ships. And then my friend John Taylor from Australia, he had a really nice logo. And he's like, hey, dude, you need a logo. That was a very bad Australian accent. But like he said, you need a logo. And my graphic designer is actually really good. And it turned out to be a Dutch guy, Joe Sieben. And he lived in Australia. And he had a company there, graphic design company. And John used them all the time. Yeah, I love it. It's also now I got it animated too. So when I start my show, the balls, they shoot out of the N one by one and then kind of builds up the logo. And then the little shadow part at the bottom of the D, then the balls fall out. It's a really nice look, visual. And that's the pre-show look of my show. And then when I start my show, I got a really big prop stand built. It's really big. It's like maybe 3-4 feet tall. And then the balls actually shoot out of it towards me, and then I start juggling those balls, and then I put them back in, and that's my prop stand in the show. So it looks pretty sweet.
So you open with your logo, basically?
The opening all ties together with my marketing, with the visual, with the pre-show. So it goes hand in hand pretty well.
So right when you start the show, you're already, even though you're performing, but you're already marketing.
A little bit, yeah. Especially like I did cruise ships for 8 years. Yeah, like with the comment cards, like it's so hard. Like if they write down the juggler was great, it's good for me. If they write Niels Duinker was great, it's even better for me. So yeah, and it looks very nice. It looks very classy. Doesn't look forced. It's actually cooler for the show, and it's better for me to do it that way. So it's a win-win. So that's my opening to the show right now.
That's great branding and a great way to open the show, and it looks organic. That's terrific.
Yeah.
Now tell me about your world records. How does one go about, do you call Guinness?
No, you cannot call them. I wish you could call them because they're a pretty large organization, and with all the rules, it can take a long time before you get your record acknowledged. They have the website, guinnessworldrecords.com. If you want to set one, you can create an account there. You can search for all the records that are already out there. And then if you feel you can break a record that's already in their database, then you apply for that record. They set you all the rules. Then you need to follow all the rules with judges, timekeepers. It's a lot of paperwork. And then when you have that already and you've set the record on video, you can submit everything to their head office. Yeah, it takes a while usually. And then somebody from Guinness will take a look at it. And then if you apply to all the rules and all the evidence is correct, then they acknowledge you with a record and you get a certificate. Well,
tell me about your different records.
I have like 7 now. So the first one was the longest duration of juggling blindfolded. Oh. Another record that I'm pretty proud of I did 14 shaker cups. I juggled 14 cups.
That's on video. I've seen that. It's
yeah, that's my favorite trick. It's also one of my favorite tricks in the show because my mentor was Freddie Kenton. He's 80 years old now, but he did that trick when he was about my age, and he did it in the Moulin Rouge in Paris. And then a couple years ago, 7 years ago, he told me that it's like, yeah, everybody juggles the balls, everybody juggles the rings. Like it's very difficult to set yourself apart from all your colleagues if you do the same props. Just like I still have a prop that's not many people do, and I will give you a set of my shaker cups, and then you start practicing those. So that's what I did. So it's kind of nice now. Like when you have a promo video, they have a couple different other props in there that agents don't see that often. Yeah, it sets you apart a little bit.
And it's great for your branding also, because on your Facebook page, if I remember correctly, your cover page is you laying on a bunch of cups.
Yeah, that's for now. Like Tom Vorjohan and Michael Messing.
Yep.
They live pretty close to me. And Tom Vorjohan and Michael Messing, they do all the photos for a lot of people that are a member of Kidabra.
Right.
And that organization always comes to Pigeon Forge once a year. So I did those photos with them recently. And then in the overalls just for the Comedy Barn. So the shaker cups, that was an idea of Jeff Jones. If you make them so they look like solo cups, then it's more organic and it looks like a juggling prop that looks like something.
They look like cups from beer pong is what they look like.
Correct.
In fact, speaking of Kidabra, I'll be interviewing next week Mark Daniel.
Cool.
From Kidabra.
The founder.
Yeah, right after you.
Awesome.
So now that's 2 of them, and there's 7. You don't have to tell me all of them, but
so one time was with one in contact juggling, one was a roller bola behind the back juggling, one was another one with contact juggling, and then another one with the cups. how do you set yourself apart from another juggler? For example, the cruise ships or fairs. If you say, "Hey, juggling show," like it doesn't pique the interest to a lot of people. If the concept is a magic show or juggling show, more people will go to a magic show because they just have a better understanding and have seen more magic shows that they enjoy. But then if you have 7-time Guinness World Records juggler Niels Duinker will be performing there, it's a little bit more interesting.
Sure.
It's good for the marketing that way.
Yeah, we run into the same thing, we magicians, because sometimes someone will look on the internet and they'll be looking, all magicians are the same is kind of the idea. We have to do certain things to set us apart. For example, one of the things that I do is I do magic with all live exotic pets. So when they're going through the internet, they're saying magician 1, magician 2, magician 3. Oh, magician with all live exotic pets. Oh, okay, great. It's something
that's cool.
a bit different than they're used to.
And then with magic, at least you have a number of really famous magicians that everybody likes. So that's good, because then they go, okay, we have David Blaine, we have Chris Angel, we have all those guys. So the people know that it can be a lot of fun and can be really cool. With juggling, there's not really one guy out there that has set that bar higher. Wherever, like now, ventriloquism is pretty hot because of a couple people that did very well, and now even the ventriloquists that are not as good, they get more bookings because the entire genre is more popular.
That's true. In fact, I was asked a lot when the Masked Magician was on TV and he was giving away a lot of tricks. A lot of people were asking me, well, gosh, isn't that hurting your business? And the truth of the matter is it was increasing our business. Yeah. Because magic was on the tip of everybody's tongue.
Yeah.
Yeah, even though he was exposing it. So we're going to change that no famous juggling person with my friend Niels Duinker.
Yeah, actually funny. Like my friend Steven Knowles and we wrote a joke last week. It was like, I want my name to be the first name that comes to mind when people think juggling. But then my first step would be that I need to teach everybody how to pronounce my name first.
Well, that's what we're here for. That's one of the reasons.
So that's how we started the interview.
That's right. So tell me about the Comedy Barn.
The Comedy Barn, it's a theater in Pigeon Forge in Tennessee. Pigeon Forge is it's a tourist. So the same have Branson, you have Atlantic City, you have Las Vegas. We are like family friendly Las Vegas.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of theaters, like maybe 10 theaters. Yeah, as of next year, there's one production company that produce most of the shows here. Produce like Dolly Stampede, Celebrations. Then from next year on, they produce the Comedy Barn, the Opry. So yeah, it's a lot of shows here in town. A couple magic shows as well. Comedy Barn is one of the most successful shows in this town. It already exists for 24 years, and we do shows every day, year round. It's amazing. The cast has been very stable for years and years, been the same, and we update our material, and a lot of people come back all the time.
How long have you been there?
For me, it's my second season, and I got extended for next year as well. And many of my colleagues have been there for 5+ years, 10+ years. A couple people have been there for over 20 years.
How did you get involved with them?
Tom Vorjahan, his magic ring, the IBM magic ring, I think it's number 58 in Knoxville. They organize Winter Carnival of Magic every year. When I was in Las Vegas for a little bit, they invited me to be part of it. So I performed at that magic convention. And still the current owner of the Comedy Barn, David Fee, is a magician too. And he is part of the magic club. So he watched the show. So he liked my act. And then there was the same day that the opening night of Darren Romeo's magic show.
Oh, yeah.
They had a party for it. And then I was at that party too. And then I started talking with David Fee. And then 2 years later, then I was in the show.
Wow. So it was a process.
Well, like I got bookings on the cruise ship. So 1 year I already had too many bookings, so I couldn't join the show. But then the next year it worked out. And that's already 2 years ago.
And then do they sign you for a 1-year contract, or how does that work?
Basically, it's just like open-ended. And most people have been there for 10 years now. I
was talking to Craig Diamond last week, I think it was.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how he signed, I think it was a 2-week contract to work on a cruise ship. And then 30 years later, he's still working the cruises.
That's cool. So cool. Yeah, I did the cruises for 8 years before joining the Comedy Barn.
Oh.
So I started juggling when I was 12 years old. And then I was 13. It was like just a local show, like Somebody saw me. It was another gig, like all small stuff. But then all throughout high school, I was performing, and then throughout college, I was performing as well. But then the gigs just got better and better. Yeah, then at one point, I was lucky because in Rotterdam, where I'm from, they had a theater restaurant. So I performed there for 5 years every week. So it was really good to get a consistency and do the act many times. And then I got lucky because House and Boss is a theme park in Japan. And back then they still used live entertainment. Yeah, 4 acts. So I did that for 3 months. And that video from that show, I sent it to the cruise ship agent. He took me, and then I started working the ships. Like the week after I graduated, I was on my first Royal Caribbean cruise ship. And I did that for 8 years. But then I a little bit tired of traveling every week. And also because you're every week on a different cruise ship, like it's hard with practice facility. And a couple juggling tricks that I wanted to work on or acts, like I couldn't do it on the ship. And I was just waiting so many days for one show. And then the opportunity from the Comedy Barn came along where I can perform every day, practice too in a gym every day. So that came along, and then I took that one. So that's my career.
I noticed you were practicing almost in the audience the other day.
Okay, always before our call time is 6:30, and then the show is 8:15. The doors open around 7:15, so I have about 45 minutes of time. So I always use that to practice tricks and to warm up. Often throughout the day, I practice as well.
Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about your corporate events that you have done or do.
Okay.
One of my favorite things I've read as I do research for these, team building with balls.
Yeah.
Tell me about your team building.
Well, you have this juggling workshops, and I do those. And when I was at the kids circus in Rotterdam, I helped out doing their workshops. So I've been doing juggling workshops now for 20 years, which is crazy.
Wait, you look like 22.
I'm 33.
Oh, because you look so young.
I always tell the people, laughing keeps you young. That's why I work at a Comedy Barn. We do shows every day. No, but I'm 33, which was also interesting. When I did my first headliner spot on the cruise ships, I was 23.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the tech people thought I can never have the experience to pull this off. I was like, dude, I've been doing shows for 10 years. You should trust me that I know what I'm doing. That's why I'm booked here. It's very nice that you want to help, but I know what to do. So just give me half an hour to set up my show, and then I can do it instead of you interrupting me with trying to help me. But you have to say it in a nice way. But it's all okay, I had no way you can have the experience because all the other guest entertainers were 40 plus.
Sure.
Yeah, it was kind of fun. Right now, since we do so many shows at the Comedy Barn, I don't do them as often. But sometimes when you have a group 500 plus people for a big corporation, then I just leave the Comedy Barn for a day or two, then fly out and do those corporate team building sessions. It's very easy to write metaphors and then tie it in with the juggling. And overall, it's just very fun. So if they have a couple different breakout sessions and workshops, so some could be more serious, and then the juggling, it's a lot of fun. 2 corporations need to come together and start working together. 2 different teams that need to work as one.
Yes.
I said, okay, we have this exercise, we did exercise. Now we have the basic elements to the juggling, and now we're gonna juggle together. So they juggle 3 balls between the 2 of them, and then I take 2 different people from 2 different teams that then need to work together on one system, so it comes into one. And then the example for that case is then the 3-ball juggling. But they can, it's okay, if in the future you need to work on the same project between people that you don't know, and now we just do it with the 3 balls. But now you know this guy, so now on the work floor it's not as difficult anymore. It's so scary to just talk to the people of the other team. You know them, and you laugh together, you had fun. So it really builds camaraderie, and it builds a team.
Yeah, and it kind of breaks the ice if they don't know each other and they're 2 different corporations.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's an icebreaker. You can write some metaphors to it, and it can be very light, or it can go a little bit more in depth. Another thing is too, when you ask people before, okay, you have never juggled before, who believes that in 50 minutes time they can actually do it? Yeah. And some people do, a lot of people don't. And then you break it down step by step, and 50 minutes later, most people can actually juggle the 3 balls. It's okay, let that be a reminder. If now there's change in the corporation that you're going through, there's a lot of stuff that could seem very overwhelming. But if you just take it one step at a time, even a near impossible result could become very possible if you just stay calm and just handle it one step at a time, and just also don't be scared to ask other people for help. And then as a team, you'll be so much stronger at the end.
Those are nice. Is that the speech that you do?
Sometimes if they ask what it actually is, yeah, not that often. No, usually I go watch the promo video, and if you think it's a match, just book it.
I was reading as I was doing research on this that you have your bachelor degree in mechanical engineering.
That's correct.
So when you go to your parents and you say, well, I have my bachelor degree in mechanical engineering and I'm juggling, which career path should I take?
Oh, they already saw that coming.
Oh, did they see?
I already told them, like when I was end of high school, it's like, oh, I want to juggle professionally. And they go, well, good luck, but then you're on your own. So good luck paying all the bills. Or we can help you a little bit with college. It's like, okay, well, college, still seems interesting. And it will buy me 4 years to get my show better so I can still go and juggle.
Oh.
In fact, like even the welcome weekend, it was funny because I was booked with my show at the welcome weekend of a competing college. So I was working there on Friday afternoon, and then Friday evening, like the welcome ceremony and stuff of my own college started. And then they called me. It's like, hey, why are you late? I was like, well, I'm at this college for their welcome thing. It's like, what? But I thought you signed up with us. I was like, yes, I did. But I'm just juggling and making, doing a gig, and then I will join you guys. But I'm still working now at the other college.
I got to work.
That's funny. Yeah, and I even got paid the end ceremony to pick up your diploma. So they wanted an act with that, and it's like, oh, it would be cool if you do it. So I did it, but I even got paid for that gig. So I even got paid for when I picked up my diploma.
Oh, you got paid to graduate?
Yeah.
In a way.
So that was pretty fun too.
Let's talk about all your different awards. Wait, actually, before I talk about all your different awards that you got, I was reading on Facebook, there's something called the Niels Duinker Award.
Yeah, that's the first year we're going to do it. Next year is the first year. So at the Netherlands National Juggling Championships, now we're going to do the Niels Duinker Award, which is going to be like a younger juggler with a lot of potential. And he's very excited about it, and he will get that award. So he will get it by the most amount. Yeah, if he drops the least, most points for presentation in the competition, and then he will get that award.
And do you decide on that, or?
No, I will still be working at the Comedy Barn. So I won't be there in the Netherlands when the competition takes place. It will be the judges that judge the stage competition. Mm-hmm. So it will be for an act, for performance. And then if they work the cleanest, so least amount of drops, but then also the most amount of points for the presentation.
Right. Who came up with that award? Because that's not only is it really cool to have an award named after you, but it's also great marketing because you're going to be in Pigeon Forge doing your show, and then someone in a whole nother country is going to be marketing for you because you have your own award.
Yeah. So Hans Klok, the magician from the Netherlands, he has a Hans Klok Award, and he is like the most well-known magician in the Netherlands. So I was inspired by that, and then he is sponsoring for the National Juggling Championships. So it's like, hey guys, I will sponsor you. I will give you money. I will give you like one book that I got translated from Russian into English, which like by the most well-known juggler in Russia, and he passed away like many years ago. But like really interesting books I sponsored for every participant. They get a copy of that. Mm-hmm. And it wouldn't be inspiring because a lot of people ask, hey, how can I be a professional juggler? And they look at like the younger generation of jugglers in the Netherlands. They look at my website and my stuff just to get inspired and how they can achieve that too. So it's like, would it be cool if, since they're already inspired, like the guy that junior with the most potential, if he get an extra award, just even if he doesn't win the championships, because maybe senior takes it, if he gets that, and it's like, yeah, that would be a really good idea. So we spoke about it. We have the Niels Duinker Award at the Juggling Championships.
That's smart. Well, let's talk about your book then. Well, I don't know if it's your book, but it's the book that you interpreted.
In the last couple of years, I published 7 books, and I wrote 2 of them myself.
What are those? Because we'll promote it here. What are your 2 books that you wrote?
Barry Friedman from Showbiz Blueprint, and I saw he was on your podcast. So I took his program, Showbiz Blueprint, which is a fantastic program. And I learned a lot. So we were also brainstorming. He said, like, well, it's like there's so many teenagers that don't really know what to do with themselves, and they need a topic, like a goal in life. He said, you found it, and you do very well with it, and you make some money with it. You meet people, you reach a lot of personal goals through your juggling. So he said that's actually pretty inspiring. So it would be great if you write a book about it to inspire them, and it can go hand in hand with your workshops. And if you want to do a school show, they can read it. I think that sounds like a really good idea. He and his wife, they helped me put that book together with the chapters and topics to write about. And then I gave it to them and they gave me feedback. So they helped me a lot. So that was my first book that I wrote.
And what's the name of that?
Catching Greatness. That was more like a motivational book. But now at the Comedy Barn last year, for merchandise, like I wrote a how to learn how to juggle book. I sell that at the Comedy Barn. So every time during intermission, I teach juggling to the kids. Then they take a juggling set with the balls and the book to take it home. It's actually really cool because a lot of kids now are coming back. So this year I already had like 10 kids that brought the juggling balls back and could juggle. And one kid that even could juggle 5 balls now.
Wow.
So that was the other book. But then the other books that I didn't write that actually helped me a lot. Or like it's just really good for the juggling world. Like so my friend Karl-Heinz Seaton, he is in his 70s now, and for over 50 years he traveled the world just studying juggling, and he becoming friends with the best jugglers in the world. Mm-hmm. And he had one book out there, it was over 25 years ago, and that is really like the holy grail, like the Bible to the juggling history books. It's extremely rare now, but he had an updated version for years and years. He had it in his room, and Dubé was going to publish it. They built, another guy was going to publish it. They built. Like I reconnected with him. I knew him from before, and he told me about that project. Yeah, so I was like, okay, I can do it. Actually, from the Raspini brothers, Dan Holtzman, his wife, she used to do that as a job to do the interior of books. So with her and with Eric Ober and with me and Karl-Heinz, we worked on this project, and now last year we published a book which is over 600 pages, has over 1,000 historical juggling photos, and it's like the most comprehensive book now in the history of juggling ever written.
Is that Juggling the Past and Future?
Yes.
And if someone wants to see that, they can go to www.jugglinghistory.com?
That's correct.
Perfect.
Yeah, now I'm working on one more project, and that's the manual, like the study book on juggling that the Russian circus school used to use and was not available in English. So I'm getting it now available into English, and then I think then I'm done with book projects for a bit.
And what's the name of that one going to be?
I think it's the Art of Juggling.
Oh, simple as that. And then
and I'm working on the biography book from my mentor. He is like writing his life story now, so we'll help him with that one from Freddie Canton. But that's going to be next year. So those are the book projects that I've worked on and have in the works.
You say now that you're done.
Until something else that sparks my interest pops up.
Right, exactly. We'll see what happens. 2 years from now, I'll talk to you again, and we'll see where you're at with that.
Yeah, but then another thing I'm working on now is Tommy Curtin, who's one of my friends too. He's around 82, and he had this really cool looking juggling club that looks like a bottle.
Yeah.
Stu Reynolds used to make them out of fiberglass. He doesn't do that anymore because he passed away too, and they're very rare, but still people are interested in them. So now I'm working with my mechanical engineering on a method how to, just make them out. So like I'm looking now for injection molding or another way to do a series of those clubs made out of plastic, so they are available again. So it's kind of funny how all the different skills come together with the juggling. That's why I like this job so much too. You have the actual act of juggling, but then the comedy writing is one, marketing is another one. Now, even I find a way to incorporate some of the mechanical engineering.
Yeah, that's one of the things I found doing this podcast. Almost everybody I've interviewed, they've used different portions of their life to bring them to where they are today. You know, you've used not only your juggling and your comedy and your all of that, but you've also used your mechanical engineering to do what you do now. Yeah,
so I produced the cups. The cups I got made myself. So you need a little bit of knowledge from the plastics, because in the beginning they started cracking all the time because we selected the wrong material. And there's a lot of little things that people don't think about.
Yeah, it just looks like, oh, he's juggling cups. Oh, look.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny too because those guys the audience doesn't know. So if another juggler would buy the cup and I have to go through the entire process of making them, one person doesn't get more applause than the other one.
Yeah, I showed my daughter that last night, and she goes, "Oh, that looks so easy." And I said, "Yeah, you go ahead and try it. Go ahead."
Yeah, that's the problem. They think it's same with contact juggling. The more you practice, the easier it looks.
Well, you make it look easy. I mean, that's the sign of a pro.
Yeah, that's part of the magic of juggling too. That it looks easy.
All right, we're gonna move on to fact or something John just made up. Sound good?
Yep.
Is it fact? Or is it something John just made up?
Here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna give you a headline, and you're gonna tell me whether it's true or not. And if it is true, tell me a little more about it.
Okay, cool.
Here we go. First headline. Niels once traveled over 40 hours to a gig and was not able to perform.
Yeah, that's true. That was not pretty.
What happened there?
For 1 week, I was booked at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
So that was cool. And then I had to fly back to the Netherlands. And the next day I had to fly from the Netherlands to Myanmar. So two really long flights.
Yeah.
Because you lose 1 day and then you lose another day. So then with the flights, there was a little glitch in that one. So then we rebooked the flight real quick to another one. But then the port agent didn't show up because it was for a cruise ship booking for Oceania Cruises.
Okay.
So everything was still good. And my agent was on it. But then the port agent, who was hired to pick me up from the airport and bring me to the ship, he wasn't there.
Oh.
I rushed through immigration. I was like, okay, this guy doesn't show up. Like the time is ticking. I took a taxi and then drove to the port. So I still made it on time to the port. But then the cruise ship couldn't get in touch with me, of course, because the port agent wasn't taking any responsibility and didn't know where I was because he was late. So I just missed the ship by like 5 minutes. They were pulling away. I was like kind of waving on the pier, but they didn't know it was me. So they stood still, and I was like, oh, that was the guy. Oh, we didn't know that was the juggler. So they just held the ship for a little bit, and then they go, okay, now we can go. And then 5 minutes, it was 5 minutes late.
So you see the ship pulling out.
Oh yeah. So and then actually I took a photo of me with the ship pulling away because every single cruise, the cruise director always makes a joke about like if you're late, then all you will end up with is a beautiful photo of you with the ship sailing away. So I took that photo and I put it on Facebook. So all my cruise ship entertainer friends, they were just laughing.
All right, we're gonna go on to the next one. Niels got a ticket once for riding a unicycle in public.
That's not true, but I was very, very close to it because it was funny. Like you have in the Netherlands, you have, of course, the roads for the bicycles, the roads for the cars, and then you have pedestrian area because a unicycle is classified in the category of a skateboard, so you cannot really go on the normal roads with your unicycle. But then the police officer, they don't run into unicycles that often.
Yeah, I'm sure.
No, so he pulled me aside. He's like, "Well, you cannot ride your bike in this pedestrian area. So I need to write your ticket." I was like, "Well, no, officer. Like it's in the category of a skateboard." He's like, "No, it's not. I'm a professional. I'm an officer, so I'm going to write you a ticket." And then he pulled out his booklets with the tickets, and he wanted to mark the category. But he's like, "Oh, there's no category for unicycles right there. So I don't know what to do with you now."
It's like bicycles, skateboards, unicycles.
It's okay. That's why it's not on there. He's like, "Oh, whatever. Like, okay, you can go now."
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
All right, next one. Niels' parents let him juggle lit torches when he was only 13 years old.
No, my parents didn't do that. But at the youth circus, they let me do it.
And how old were you then?
I think it was 13 or 4. Yeah, probably 13, maybe 14.
So I made it up, but it was actually.
I was like, I want to buy torches. And she goes like, no, you can't. I was like, well, I did it at the kids circus. So it's not safe. And I was like, she's like, well, you need to learn 5 clubs first before you can do the torches.
Mhm.
And I said, that's not necessary. Like my friends, they cannot do it and they're safe and they do it. It's like, well, that's my rule. You have to learn how to juggle 5 clubs first. So that motivated me. So I learned how to juggle 5 clubs. And I was like, look, I can do 5 clubs now. And she's like, oh, actually, I meant 6. I was like, no. Live up to your word now. So then I bought the torches and then I juggled them.
You were just waiting for that. I meant 6. No, I meant 7.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I meant 8.
Yeah.
All right, next one. Niels learned to juggle below sea level.
Technically, that's true.
Oh, how is that true?
As the country is below sea level, and of course, because of the dikes and the irrigation system, we're not flooded. But the entire country where we live is below sea level.
When I first read that, I was like, Niels learned to juggle below sea. So
Yeah.
that's some kind of trick.
No, that would be hard. But below sea level, if you go to the Netherlands, then you can do it.
Oh, okay. Next one, last one. Before joining the Comedy Barn Theater, Niels performed in overalls all the time.
No. It was so weird. It's like the first shows in overalls was so weird. And now when I wear my suit again, it's different too.
So at the Comedy Barn, you're in overalls?
Like every act is wearing overalls. So we perform in a barn in overalls, and it's the cleanest comedy show that you can imagine. Like stuff you can do in Disney cruises or for Disney. You need to go one level cleaner than Disney to be able to work at the Comedy Barn.
Wow, one level to get cleaner than Disney?
And you still need to get a really good amount of laughs.
That was fact. Or something John just made up.
That was fun.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to move on to our fan questions. Would you like some fan questions?
Absolutely.
Every time I interview somebody new, I put on my Facebook group that you can ask questions on my Facebook group, and I'll do my best to ask my guest of the day, who is, of course, Niels. So, Rob Balchunas, he's known as Rob the Balloon Guy, and on his business card it says, "Don't actually rob the balloon guy." That's my name.
That's funny.
He asks, do you prefer touring and traveling or a long contract where you're in one place?
I don't know. I think it's depending where you are at your career or where I was at my career, part of my life. In the beginning, like for the cruise ships, it was amazing to go to all those different places. And also it's great to connect with all kind of people. So I did the Moisture Festival in Seattle, which was fantastic to connect with a lot of people. Went to Japan, all those connections that I made throughout the travel helped me with my show, just to get a different angle or just learn something. And performing for all those different cultures with all the travel helped me to understand my material better too, how an international audience responds to it. But then after 8 years of traveling all the time, I got a little tired of it. So right now it's amazing that I'm in one spot for a couple of years. And that also helped me to work on all those books, and those books helped me to deepen my understanding of juggling and show business, comedy writing. And also now with the books, it helps me my prestige or my reputation, which will set me up for the next step in my career.
Yeah, so it sounds like where you're at in your career now, you actually have a little bit of extra time that you can either practice or write or do some other things.
Yeah, it's on the cruise ship you have a lot of the time too, but since you're traveling, it's very difficult to go to a prop builder or work on projects that you need to be in one spot for. I think there's something to be said for both of it, but it's mostly how do you want to, which lifestyle do you want, what do you want to achieve besides and with your shows, and what's better. Some stuff you can do on the road, sometimes better in one spot.
Now, Rob also asks, how do you balance difficult technical juggling while making it entertaining for an audience?
That's a big question. I think first of all, you're doing a show, so it needs to be entertaining for an audience. So if you're a magician, you use magic skills, magic
Sure.
tricks. If you're a juggler, you use juggling tricks. If you ventriloquist, you use a dummy. So it's like, okay, what is entertaining to a crowd? And then the juggling is pretty amazing, but then there's different ways. Like if you juggle 3 objects, you can use 3 clubs, 3 balls, 3 knives, 3 chainsaws. So for most people, like knives or chainsaws is already more interesting. So that's one way you can do it. If you can do a trick with a more unusual prop, but still the same trick, it deepens the level of interest to the crowds. Like adding comedy or music or different theatrical aspects, you can make it more interesting that way as well. Yeah, like same like if you juggle and you stand still, or you just add a cool movement to it, makes it more interesting. Sometimes you can add it, like if I juggle clubs or I juggle the lit clubs and we make it dark on stage, that makes it more interesting usually too. So there's all these different elements. So for me, like the juggling trick itself is the core, is the base of the act, and then through comedy, presentation, music, or volunteers, and there's different ways how you can present that trick, and in those different ways you can make it more interesting.
All right, so Mark Daniel, we all know Mark Daniel of Cadabra, fearless leader of Cadabra, says, no questions, just kudos. World-class, driven, and yet a totally down-to-earth great guy.
I take that. Thank you, Mark.
There's no question. It's just, that's what he said.
Yeah, he is great. Thanks, Mark.
So Eddie Rice Jr., man of many talents and owner of number one Best Events and Entertainment, asks, what tips do you have for getting booked in other countries?
I think there's 2 different strategies with that one. Most of the time in that other country, they have variety acts too. And for them, it's just like it's a matter like, okay, we want the best option for our event. So, or for our theater, or for our show. If you have something unique in your act and you're one of a kind with that act, then if they like that act, they will book you. So your act needs to be as specific and so unique and so cool that you're one of a kind, and they just want to have that. So that's why very often just the best performers are working internationally, because they are one of a kind. If you're more general of a performer, so if you are a stilt walker or a juggler, or just like with strolling or balloon sculpting, and another act could do your job too, because they're kind of similar.
Yeah,
you can still get international bookings, because for example, in Asia or Middle East, there's more prestige for the shopping mall or for the producer or for that theme park to have international acts. So then the fact that you are international builds to the reputation of that venue. It's a matter like then maybe just connecting with finding those agents, finding those venues, finding those producers that put that kind of stuff together. So I was lucky in Japan. Since House and Boss, they were priding themselves of having international acts. My act was already getting more unique back then, but it was helping me too that I was from the Netherlands and it was a Dutch theme park.
So did they contact you originally, or did
I
you?
reached out to them. Like a couple of my friends, American friends, were working there. But I said, like, why do you book American performers if it's a Dutch theme park, like with old buildings, like replicas from the Netherlands?
Sure.
And I said, well, like it's because we can read the websites from the American people, and we don't really speak Dutch. I said, okay, but I'm here now, and I was actually pretty smart. I went to a couple of the buildings that they had in the theme park, and I went there in the Netherlands, the original ones, and I just did my juggling trick, part of my act, in front of those buildings. Send them that video and go like, okay, can you already imagine how it looks at your theme park? And they were just laughing.
That is smart. Can you imagine how this looks?
Yeah.
Oh, well, here's a video. This is exactly how it looks.
But the original building, yeah. So and then I got booked. So that was really cool.
That's very smart. So do you have some advice for somebody just coming up?
Yeah, there's a lot of different aspects. You have the marketing aspect, you have the show aspect itself. Yeah, so for the marketing, like I think the most important thing is, for example, with your website and your promo video, try to take a look outside the perspective. What's important to the booker? For example, if you do balloon sculpting in shopping malls, like look, why do they have you there? To make the kids happy. So and also they don't know much about it. So if you go, your pro, like he's the only one, and he does so many twists. They go, the technicalities they don't really care, but they do care about like all the happy faces and all the happy kids that they will have at the end when you're there. So this why did they book me? So instead of like, okay, I can juggle 5 balls. Okay, it's great that you can juggle 5 balls, but why is that so good for the end client? And just try to answer that question in your promo. And then also for me, like promo photos on my website, like if you do a great trick and the composition of your trick looks good, but everybody in the background looks bored, all the faces from the audience look bored, it's still a bad promo photo.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't. Yeah, in the beginning you don't see it because you're so focused on yourself and about your skills and think what your act or your entertainment does for the people that book you.
Right. A lot of magicians fall into that trick or that trap because they'll come up with a trick and they'll say, "Oh, isn't this trick amazing?" You know, their picture is them doing this amazing trick, but then the audience going, All right, how about some advice for the working pro, the guy that's been doing it for a while?
Maybe just take a fresh look at your material. If some bad habits have snuck into your working and your material. So maybe take a video of your act, and if you think, because there's so many guys go, okay, I'm a comedy magician or comedy juggler. This is funny, and then you listen to their act, you go, okay, that is funny, but nobody is laughing. So is it really funny? And then really maybe write down your script, just everything you say, write it down on a piece of paper, take a marker where you get the laughs. And if there's the amount of laughs that you want, good. If you want to make it more funny, because you say that's funny, but you only get maybe 3 laughs during the entire routine. And you go, okay, here's a minute, then I'm just talking to the crowd, but I'm not really getting any laughs. So maybe I should just rewrite that portion so some of those jokes or phrases actually do get a laugh.
Do you have a recommended book for us?
I love everything that Seth Godin writes. Purple Cow, and that was his first book. Now This Is Marketing, which it's a great book. I gave a quote recently for Tobias Beckwith's new book on marketing.
Okay.
And everything Robert Greene wrote, that's more it's not so much showbiz related, 48 Laws of Power. But I love that book a lot as well.
Which one is that?
48 Laws of Power.
Oh, 48 Laws of Power.
That's a great book too.
Got it. Cool. Well, thank you, Niels, for doing my show.
Thanks for having me. That was great.
Do you want to promote any social media?
On all social media, like Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all that stuff. My handle is just my name, Niels Duinker. And then if you want to look at the Comedy Barn, I'm doing the marketing on Instagram for that theater too. So I'm putting up all the posts, and that's just the Comedy Barn on Instagram if you'd like to see that too.
Got it. Now I'll put all those links on your show notes of your page on my website, thevarietyartist.com.
Cool.
And thanks to all my variety artists. If you like this interview, share it on your social media. That's how we can spread the word. You can reach me at my email at john@thevarietyartist.com or join my Facebook group at The Variety Artist, where you can ask me to ask questions of our guests. Now go out and book those gigs, make some money, and have some fun.
That's all for this episode of The Variety Artist, but your journey continues on our website. Go to thevarietyartist.com for more strategies, insight, and resources, as well as show notes on today's guest to assist you in your career. We'll see you on the next episode of The Variety Artist. But until then, go out and book those gigs, make some money, and have some fun.